The rain came down in sheets that night, turning the city streets into rivers of neon and shadow. Marcus Chen sat in his Mercedes, engine idling at a red light, when he saw her, a woman stumbling along the sidewalk, one arm wrapped around her ribs, the other reaching out to steady herself against a storefront window. Blood trickled from her lip, mixing with rain and tears. And even from 20 feet away, he could see her body shaking with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than pain. He should have driven on. That's what the old Marcus would have done. The man who'd clawed his way from sleeping in his car with a newborn daughter to running a tech empire worth $300 million. The man who'd learned that the world didn't owe you anything, that survival meant keeping your eyes forward and your doors locked. But something in the way she crumpled against that window, something in the desperate sound of her crying, reached through the glass and steel of his car and grabbed hold of something he thought he'd buried years ago. Marcus pulled over. "Ma'am?" He approached carefully, hands visible, keeping his distance. "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" She flinched at his voice, backing away until her shoulders hit the brick wall. Up close, he could see the full extent of it, the swelling around her left eye, the bruises blooming purple across her collarbone. The way she held her side like breathing cost too much. She couldn't have been older than 30, with dark hair plastered to her face and eyes that held the kind of fear that comes from knowing exactly how much worse things could get. "Please," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Please just leave me alone." "I can't." "I thought I'd die tonight. I really thought this was it." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He saw himself suddenly, 12 years ago, holding 3-month-old Sophie in a hospital corridor, watching his wife slip away from an embolism the doctor said they couldn't have predicted. He remembered that same thought echoing in his head. "I'm going to die right here. The pain is going to kill me." He remembered a nurse named Patricia who'd sat with him for 3 hours, missing her own shift change, just so he wouldn't be alone. "You're safe now," Marcus said quietly. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Marcus Chen. I have a daughter about your age. Please let me help you." Something in his tone, maybe the steadiness, maybe the pain he didn't quite hide, made her meet his eyes. For a long moment, they stood there in the rain, two strangers connected by the universal language of suffering. "My name is Elena," she finally said. "He took my phone, my wallet, everything. I don't have anywhere to go. I can't go home. He has a key. He said if I called the police." She broke down again, sliding down the wall until she sat on the wet pavement. "I don't know what to do. I have nothing left." Marcus crouched down, ignoring the rain soaking through his $1,000 suit. "Listen to me, Elena. Right now, we're going to get you to a hospital. Then we're going to make sure you have somewhere safe to stay. After that, we figure out the rest, one step at a time. Can you do that?" She stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." "Someone helped me once when I had nothing," Marcus said simply. "When I thought the world had ended and there was no point in going on." She didn't have to. She just did. "So now I'm helping you." At the emergency room, Marcus stayed while Elena was treated. He called his assistant, apologizing for the late hour and arranged for a security detail. He contacted a women's shelter he'd donated to in the past and secured Elena a private room. When the police arrived to take her statement, he hired her a lawyer on the spot. And through it all, he called Sophie every hour to check in, explaining where he was and why it mattered. "Dad, you're doing the right thing," his daughter said, her voice thick with emotion. "Remember when you told me about Nurse Patricia? About how she saved your life by just being there? This is your chance to be someone's Patricia." The hours blurred together. Elena's ex-boyfriend was arrested at 3 a.m. trying to break into her apartment. By dawn, Marcus had helped Elena file a restraining order, transferred money to cover her immediate expenses, and connected her with a victim's advocate. But more than any of that, he stayed. He sat in uncomfortable plastic chairs and drank terrible coffee and just remained present, solid, proof that the whole world hadn't abandoned her. As sunrise broke through the hospital windows, Elena looked at Marcus with fresh tears in her eyes. But these were different. "Why?" she asked again. "Why would you do all this for a complete stranger?" Marcus thought about his answer carefully. 12 years ago, I was sitting in a hospital corridor holding my infant daughter, and I'd just lost my wife. I had $17 in my bank account. I was living in my car, and I remember thinking that I couldn't do it anymore, that I was going to fail Sophie before she even had a chance at life. A nurse found me at 2 a.m. crying in a stairwell. She could have walked past. She had every reason to. Instead, she sat with me. She told me about losing her own husband, about raising 2 kids alone, about the nights she thought she'd drown in the grief. Then she looked me in the eye and said, "But you don't drown. You swim, and eventually you reach the shore." He paused, his voice thick with memory. Patricia helped me find resources, childcare assistance, job placement services, even a small apartment I could afford. But more than that, she gave me hope when I had none. She made me believe that kindness still existed in the world, that people could still care about each other. That belief saved my life. It made me want to build something, not just for Sophie, but to prove that Patricia was right, that goodness matters, that we're supposed to help each other. Elena wiped her eyes. "What happened to you after that?" "I worked 3 jobs while Sophie slept. I built a company from nothing. I made something of myself." He smiled softly. "But success isn't about money. Elena, it's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't drive past someone who needs help. It's about staying human when the world tries to make you hard." 3 months later, Marcus sat in his office when his assistant buzzed him. "Sir, there's an Elena Rodriguez here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says you'll remember her." Marcus stood immediately. When Elena walked in, she looked transformed, not just physically healed, but carrying herself with a strength that hadn't been there that rainy night. She smiled, and it lit up her entire face. "I got a job," she said, "at a nonprofit that helps domestic violence survivors. I start next week, and I'm back in school, finishing my social work degree. I wanted you to know that because of you, I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm living. I'm helping other women find their way out." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Elena, that's incredible. You told me that someone helped you when you had nothing," she said. "And you said that kindness made you believe the world could be good. Well, you did that for me. That night I thought humanity had failed me. I thought cruelty was all that existed. But you proved something different. You showed me that there are still people who care, who stop, who stay." She paused, tears streaming down her face. "You saved my life, Marcus. Not just by getting me to a hospital, but by making me believe I deserved to be saved." After Elena left, Marcus sat alone in his office as the city lights began to twinkle below. He thought about that nurse Patricia, about the chain of kindness she'd started 12 years ago in a hospital corridor. He thought about how one moment of compassion could ripple forward through time, touching lives in ways you'd never fully know. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "Proud of you, Dad. Always." Marcus smiled, looking out at the city where somewhere Elena was beginning her new life, where somewhere Patricia might still be working her shifts, never knowing the empire of goodness she'd built through one simple act of staying when she could have walked away. The world could be cruel. It could be hard and cold and unforgiving. But it could also be this: strangers stopping in the rain, hands reaching out in darkness, humans remembering that they were supposed to care for each other. And in the end, that made all the difference.